Okay, next I'm going to show you how to use embossing powder using stamps. So this time I choose a much darker, I got a black paper, and then again I'm placing it against number 12 along the line here, and I already have my stamps in the right place. So number one thing, you want to get the powder and lightly tap over your paper so your embossing powder does not stick to anywhere that we don't want them to be, so they don't become permanent. And don't worry, you can always wipe it off when you're done. And here is the Versamark watermark ink pads. This is a watermark ink, so it's actually clear. You will not be able to see any of the ink on top, so you have to make sure you push it down firmly, but don't break my ink pads. You just have to, you will feel a little bit of a resistance. Just make sure you cover it all over. And I'm going to close it very carefully and not to create any of the wings or any movements to shift the paper. So I'm going to give it a firm push and open it, and I think I can see my ink pretty well. So next, I'm going to get my tray, and then I have a coffee filter on top, and this is gonna catch all of my embossing powder. So I'm going to use the gold embossing powder just to show you what it looks like. So I'm gonna place my paper around top. Okay, so and then just spray it a little bit over, and then you can turn it on the back and just lightly tap it, so all the extra powders will get into the tray. Now if you, for any reason, some of the powder gets on the side and in any place that you don't want them to, you can use a little brush and then just brush off all the little powder, because once you heat it up, it will become permanent. Okay, but before you heat it up, you still have a chance to correct and then make it a little better. Okay, so once I have that, I'm gonna heat set this. Now if this piece of paper is very, very tiny, then I would suggest you to use a cutting board, because this cutting board is heat resist, so you can put your paper right on top and you can heat it up. Now to heat up again, you want to heat it up for 10 to 15 seconds. And then I turn it low. Now for demonstration, I'm doing it here, but please, when you use the heat gun, please do it on the ground. Don't do it on the table, you're gonna burn the furniture, but for the video purpose, I'm just gonna do it here. Now, as soon as the powder change color, you wanted to stop your heat gun right away, so it doesn't damage your works. Otherwise, if you keep on keeping it heat, it's going to burn those powder. Now after you finish using your embossing powder, you want to put it back into a jar. I usually just funnel it a little bit, making sure all the powders were in the center. And then I'm going to put the jar inside this blue tray so it can catch all the excess in case I made a mistakes. And you can just dump the powder back into the jar, and you can tap lightly. I use my finger in the back just to tap a little bit, and then immediately close the cap so it's safe. Now after I finish inking and I wanted to clean it, you can just spray some water on the stress with a water bottle. Just spray inside the tray to make the chamois a little wet. And then if it's dirty, like really dirty, then you can spray a little bit of the stamp cleaner spreads, and then take that with you, and then just gently wipe the stamps, and to remove all of the ink. And it's good to go. Let's briefly talk about the heat gun. Heat gun is a little bit different than normal hair dryer. A hair dryer blows out a lot of air and very little heat, but heat gun, it blows out a lot of heat and very little air. So you never want to put your hands in front of it. Like I said, it's really hot. You can easily burn yourself. So to properly use heat gun to dry up things, or when you wanted to use embossing powder, you wanted to turn on the heat gun. You can see on the side there's a low and high. You can turn it on to low or high, but then after you turn it on, please point it towards the ground. Like I said, because it's a high heat, if you point it towards people, you could burn them. If you point it towards any of the furniture, you could damage the furniture. You can also easily damaging anything around it or burn any other people's projects. So please be very careful with the heat gun. Always turn it on and always towards the ground. And then when you're ready to use it, you can bring your project over. Now when you heat it up, keep a little bit of a distance and do it with a swirling. Let me try to adjust the camera so you can see it. So you wanted to do a swirling of motion, and then you can see it dries really quick. Okay, when you're ready, turn it off, and you can bring your project back to your seat.